Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode on Talk Everything Education, looking at the impact of COVID-19 on the health and well-being of educators and students. As usual, I have guests from around the world who would be talking about how COVID have impacted this particular client group, educators and students, and how we could actually support educators and students. Because as we know, the question I always ask is, can educational institution cope with the mental health of educators and students? And we know the answer is no, because we also know that there are limited resources in all this industry and the ways by which they could support educators and students. In some of these institutions, they could only support students, but it's not even fully, because for one institution, you might have two counselors who is dealing with over 100 students. And we know, especially now, during the pandemic time, there have been an increase in the mental health of educators and students. We know before the pandemic, educators was 13% higher in terms of the stress level compared with any other profession. So could you now imagine when we have the pandemic and we now have educators having to do so much more? As an educator myself, there's so much more we have to do, like navigate the online platform as well as being in the physical classroom. So it's quite challenging. And the stress level is great, because in terms of planning lessons for online, which it might take you 3 hours to plan a lesson, and it might be only for half an hour. So those are some of the new challenges that educators are now encountering. To top that up, educators and education have been one of the industry where they have not moved on with the times, i.e. to move on in the 21st century. Because educators always did things as, this is the way we always do it in the physical classroom. So for them to actually begin to navigate a new normal, which looks at the online platform, which now look at technology, it has been a mindful for most educators. And when you are not sure of something, it adds on to your stress. Uncertainty brings on stress, because you are not comfortable and you're not really in control of it. And as we know, educators are control obsessed. So being on the online platform, they are not in control of that. So that actually add to extra stress. So they're now, navigating this new normal with the extra stress of technology, which educators are not fully happy with. And they are so obsessed with what's going on in the classroom because they have full control of it, which they no longer have control. So put those all together, and we now have a real concoction of stress, anxiety, and mental health issue regarding educators. So on this platform, we attempt to find tools, tips, and strategies to give educators to navigate this new normal, not only to support themselves, but also to support the students who come to them as their first port of call. Because the students would normally come to the educators first to say, well, miss, I'm having this amount of challenge, etc. And in some cases, the educators haven't got a clue how to deal with it. So on this platform, we aim to give various tips, tools, and strategies to deal with it. Okay, let me now welcome my two members of the panel. Welcome, 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 guys. And thank you so very much for coming on and accepting my invitation to come online to discuss this quite important topic that is not going to go away, and it is more and more prominent in the society. So can you please introduce yourself, say what country you come from, and say roughly what you do. Thank you once again.
So my name is Carrie. I'm in the United States, and I'm a holistic health practitioner. I've been in healthcare for over a decade, and I've also worked as a personal trainer. And I now put those two things together and approach whole body health from head to toe.
Right. Thank you very much. Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you. And Fazana?
Yes, ma'am. Very good evening, ma'am. This is Farzana Khan from India. I'm an educator and moderator for Standard 10, and my approach towards education is to reach out to every child at the grassroots level. My job is not only to teach a syllabus, to heal the wounds, to help the child to face everyday's challenge.
Right.
Because we believe that we bring the best out of the child by bringing yourself best first. So my job is to be on the front line, to help my kids to understand, not only to get a certificate for themselves, but to understand that life is a journey and how to understand your journey, how to tap your talents and come out with your skill and make yourself a happy person. I want
Right.
every child to be a good citizen. And with this, I want to say to everybody, to my other panel friend, and to you, Debbie, we all love you because we come from the same fraternity. I pray and lift a prayer for every teacher who is my brother and sister that hold on, hang on, because we are also the online warriors. We are
I like that.
actually the bricks and cement of a child's life,
Yeah.
and they depend to us. That's as you said, Debbie, they come to us with their problems because we are their next academic parents.
Yeah, that is so very true. That's it in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yes,
People don't realize how much roles an educator has. Because as you say, Fazana, we don't only teach them the syllabus, we teach them the whole puzzle. Because before we could actually teach the syllabus, we need to unpack the backpack which they carry. And in that backpack is a whole range of stress. Anxiety because they don't know what's happening to the family, stress because they haven't been seeing their friends, they have not been eating, you name it, they've got that. So before we could actually put in a syllabus in the mind, we have to
exactly.
unpack it. So there's where Kerry come in, because you need to help us to unpack this child before we could actually educate this child academically. Because
Right.
academically is the last part. There's so
Yes,
many other
exactly.
things we need to take out for. It's like the anxiety, the stress, they don't want to come to school. The parents probably going through argument every day. They haven't had any breakfast to eat. You know, they walk into school, they have no tools for the school. The list goes on. And when they come to us as an educator, they come with all of that. And all you have to say is, morning. Then you have an attitude. Or you say, okay, can you just sit over there, please? Can you take your books out? I haven't got any books. I haven't got any paper. And you think, okay, this is more than just not having paper. This is bigger than that.
Yes,
So as educators, we always have to be on guard. We on duty all the time.
right.
Right. One of the challenge I keep, this is the question I keep on asking on all my platform. Do we think that educational institutions are equipped to deal with the increased mental health of educators and students?
No,
And exactly, right. Why is that?
I'll come. The reason is that now education has been made a very professional, commercial way. We are actually generating only engineers, doctors, lawyers, and teachers and whatnot. We are only generating professionals. We are not generating and molding citizenship because we are failing to understand that a child is also has a package of emotions and what we think, what we understand. The child frames himself into it. The Planning Commission of India once stated that the destiny of the country is molded in the classroom. If you want to see what will be your country after 10 years, go to any school and judge a child. Understand how happy he is. Is he happy to come into the classroom? Or we are burdening him with only completion of syllabus? Are we healing him? Because every time when I consult with the child, what you rightly said, in online, many times when they don't give me the homework, I do give them a call and ask, Bacha, are you happy? You're safe. Then after some time he says, Miss, my father has lost his job.
Mm.
Then whatever we can do, we had done as a teacher.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because even when you talk with them, dear Debbie, it heals their soul. It heals their soul. We have to reach to that level. Education was not. Please try to understand the word educate comes from the word to nurture, to mold. It was not for generating only professionals.
That's true. That is so true.
It was not there.
Yeah.
It was not there. It was not there in the concept of educate. It was to care. See the word C-A-R-E. And why we teachers are called the academic parents? Because a larger chunk of a childhood is spent with the teacher. Even today, Debbie, let me tell you, I got a call from my teacher, who was my teacher in the college, and I started crying because for me, he is my noble soul, the person who actually made me what I am today. I was crying. When I met him online, I was crying because that is the impact of a teacher. And who is the luckiest that in the morning, afternoon, or evening at night, when the kids tell you good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, they are actually a blessing. And the parents are not investing fees, they are also investing their child's future in a teacher.
Yeah, that is so very true. That is so very true.
They are feeling secured that my child, teacher, we have lost our job, we are having one time a meal, but my child is very happy when he log in and listen to your story and your lesson. Because every day he says, Mama, I'm getting stronger with Farzana Miss. For me, that is my highest reward.
Yes. Yes,
because this also is a challenge for all of us. Because every day I tell them the small story. I tell them something. I tell them one thing, that they are soldiers right now without an uniform and to fight a battle against all odds. And education should teach a person to fight the battle on his own. Don't make them handicapped. All the children are superpower. They are a powerhouse. The only job of a teacher is to train them to tap their own power within it.
That's very, very true. But you see, when we have to do all of that, we also need support. We don't know, especially around this time, because one of the things I say to educators, I say, okay, I understand that we go in challenge, we have challenges and stress, but how do you look after yourself? And a lot of educators don't look after themselves. So, Kerry, what tools, how could you tell educators, what would you say to them, right? You know, like Farzana and I, right? We are constantly stressed. I'm less stressed because, you know, I do a lot of meditation, etc. But I know a lot of my colleagues out there are covered in stress and anxiety. They don't know what to do. Even when I say about self-care, one of them said to me last week on one of the platform, oh, I really don't have time to do self-care. And that irritates me. It irritates me because I'm thinking, if you don't have time for you, how could you have time for your students? Because which means that what you're giving your student is nothing, because you are too tired to give your student all you ought to give them because you're tired. You haven't taken care of yourself. So, Kerry, what do you think we need to do in terms of, stress management? What are you going to suggest to us?
Sure. So first, I kind of want to address that first question too. I'm not in education, but I think it's also really important for us to acknowledge that though on a whole, maybe education is not necessarily equipped to handle mental health issues. I think that there is a move and a push to make sure that there are resources in the schools. I know that I have been in schools as a practitioner where there are a lot of mental health counselors. There's people there for the teachers to utilize and lean on. And I think that that is really important to acknowledge before we say that teachers are completely not equipped, right? They are. You just have to know where your resources are. And I think that that's one of the biggest tips, is remembering that You don't have to do it alone. You know, coming from nursing, we have the same mentality of, I have to do it all. I have to carry it all. It's so heavy, but I'm going to keep trudging along and neglecting things like self-care and creating boundaries for myself and doing these really self-honoring things that are so important. And a part of that is remembering that as a teacher, you are there to educate and to nurture and do all of those things, but you have other resources. There are people there. You just have to know who they are. Who's, you know, what tool is in your toolbox? What do you have that you can utilize? And I think that that's important. And also acknowledging that your best effort is good enough. Your best effort
is fantastic.
That's beautiful, because what you've done is allowed something to happen, even if you feel like, ooh, I don't know if I handled that well. Ooh, I don't know if I, you know, spoke to them the way that I would have wanted to. There is room for grace, and you are doing the best that you can do with what the situation that's been placed in your hands. And I think educators need to embrace that grace a little bit more. What's happening right now in 2020 is new. Nobody's ever had to do it before. And these educators are stepping up to the plate in a tremendous way, in a beautiful way. And I have, you know, educators in my family, and seeing what they have to go through, I'm like, oh my goodness, you're doing amazing. And I don't think enough people are telling you all that. So I wanted to
sing it. Yes. Because sometimes I feel I'm the lone soldier. Thank you.
Let yourself feel that. Let yourself receive those compliments. Let yourself have that. Then the other side to that, the actual, you know, the really practical things to be doing, I think in your classroom, it is really important that you see self-care. If nothing else, if you, because like you said, I get irritated when people are like, I don't have time for self-care. Self-care doesn't have to be manicures and pedicures and hour-long massages. It gets to be what supports and nourishes you. It doesn't have to be what I do. It needs to be what is best for you. And that also means it doesn't have to be long. And as educators, I encourage you to see it as a teaching tool. Because when you say, I am going to take care of myself, and you model that in the classroom. So for instance, say you're feeling rather anxious, and let's be real, when we're feeling those feelings, everybody, whether they're kids or not, will feel what you're experiencing. They feel your Acknowledging it is that first step. So modeling to your students to say, and this is what I tell people a lot, don't say I'm stressed, I am stressed, because then you're owning it. You're saying who you are is stress. That is not who you are. Who you are is a human being who's experiencing a human emotion. So modeling that to your students of saying, you know what? I feel anxious. I feel stressed. I feel overwhelmed, whatever it might be for you. Hey guys, let's take 5 minutes and let's shake out. Let's just shake out. Let's just get up and shake it out. And I know we're on Zoom now, and so it's a little bit different. We're in homes, we're not in classrooms, but even taking those 2 seconds, 30 seconds to shake it out, to show your students what it means to acknowledge what you're feeling and then take care of it before proceeding, lets them see like, oh, understanding how to take care of myself, understanding how to express my emotions, understanding how to nourish and support myself is more important than this math problem. I'll get there, and I'll actually probably do better at the math problem because I've taken care of the deeper issue. And now I can come to this math problem with these open eyes and this time to focus. And we know that, you know, it doesn't have to be movement. I use that as an example because we know that students who move, whether while they're learning, whether you make it into a movement game or in between learning, learn and remember more.
Yes.
They do better. They do better. And so letting them see that you are willing to put yourself first is beautiful. You get to use it as a teaching tool. You get to say, my self-care is so important because it means that then I can take care of you. Every time the kiddos see that, it becomes then easier for them to do it as they grow up and as they become adults. And that's a really beautiful sort of ripple effect. And I think in almost any situation, when we give ourselves permission to do something, it creates permission for other people in our world to do the same thing. So letting them see you do that is really a beautiful way to teach it and to show them it's so important. And so, like I said, it doesn't have to be big. It can be taking those 30 seconds to shake it out before a lesson. Maybe you don't want to use it for the kiddos. Just do it before then, right? It can be making sure that you're getting enough sleep. That is actually self-care. It's eating foods that give you energy and feel good in your body, and, you know, letting yourself take that time. I know, like, again, nurses, we feel you guys, nurses and teachers will skip lunch or not eat because they have another class, they have another thing, they have this, they have that, or they're eating on the go. And when you sit down and say, I'm creating this boundary, I get 20 minutes to sit and eat, that is a really beautiful self-honoring thing. And yeah, it's hard. And maybe you don't have 20 minutes. Do you have 10? Do you have 5? You know, creating the space for the time that you do have is so important. And really becoming aware of what's going on in your world. And then, like I said, modeling that for your students. It's really beautiful. And, you know, you guys are the educators. I don't know how to bring it down to a kindergartner's level, but know that you guys do. You know, you guys have the tools to say to that kindergartner, you know, to teach them that emotional intelligence that is so important and missed so often, to say, what is it that you are feeling? What is it that would help you, so that, you know, we can do this together. We can go on this journey together. We can take care of this emotional, physical need. And then when we get to learning, you know, we know there's better retention, there's better memory, there's better focus. We know all of those things happen. And so again, being that model, being the teacher that you are, but saying, no longer saying, I'm stressed. Nope. I am feeling stress. I am feeling, what are you feeling? You are not your emotions. And then also removing the, I don't have timeline.
Yeah.
I don't have time. I get it. I'm busy too. We are all different levels of busy, right? We're all different levels of, productive things we've got to do. Start saying, instead of, I don't have the time, I don't have the time, I don't have the time, ask, where can I find it? Where can I find it? Where can I put it? You teachers, you are also creative. I know you can find a creative place to put it. I know you can. I have faith that you guys are so creative. You are magicians. You can find it. If you ask, instead of, I don't have it, and you put this barrier up, you say, where can I find it? Where can I put it? How can I model it? And letting that guide you, if nothing else. Like I said, sometimes we have to just find how it works for you, you know. If it's easier for teachers to teach it, then teach self-care and see how that, then models in your classroom.
Yeah, I like that idea of teaching self-care and finding it, because what I do as well is I say when I come in and sometimes I feel really tired, and I say, you know what, because I play classical music in my class. So when the students come in, they're coming in to classical music, if I happen to get there before them, if I haven't had class before. And then I'm saying to them, okay, you guys are talking too much. It's time for us to you guys are talking too much. It's time for us to do some exercise. Come on, let's dance. And we just dancing. Miss, I can't dance. Of course we could all dance. We could all dance. We could all shake our body. And as we know, the more we shake our body, the more the oxygen, all this go up to the brains, and then you're fired up. So, as you say, Carrie, it doesn't have to be a whole lot of time. It could be just a few minutes to just jump around and just be a child again.
Yes. Yeah. We've forgotten, I think, and again, this goes back to the educational model. We've put movement into like a gym class, right? That's PE. That's gym class. And sometimes we have to come back, like you said, to ourselves as the adult of being a child, and just say, I'm going to move for movement's sake, and I'm going to move to express myself. I'm going to move to express the emotion I'm feeling right now. And that's it, for no other reason than to move my body. Yeah. There's no grade, there's no right or wrong. It's not a lesson plan. We just need to move.
Exactly. And something I say to students as well, I say, you need to sing. And it's like, oh, but Miss, I can't sing. I say, look, I say, I'm not telling you that you need to be the opera singer, you need to be Whitney Houston. I'm saying just sing, it doesn't matter. You are singing out the energy and just bringing in the fresh energy, cleaning your lungs. But you see, what is so interesting about all of that is whatever schools I go to, because I am not permanent in any school, whatever school I go to, it would be the classical music, the jump around, the stress, etc. But because students have been so programmed and conditioned that when they get to the classroom, the role is to just give them the academic. It doesn't matter how they're feeling. That's what you're going to do, because that's what you as an educator have been programmed to do. However, we are now beginning, we should be aware that it's not working like that, because we are not dealing with programmed people. We are dealing with human beings with emotions. And I think that is where education is going wrong, forgetting that these are human beings with emotion. So in order to do the academic, we need to deal with the emotions that we faced with. Instead of having to tell of this child because the child is being disruptive or because the child is messing around, the child brain might be tired because the child just came from another lesson. And you don't know the stress of that lesson. Did the child enjoy that lesson in the first place? Is the child okay in that lesson? Or is that lesson too challenging for the child? We assume that when they come in and they're sitting, oh, sit down, take your books off. Why are you messing around? There's more to that.
Yeah, I think and I think that if nothing else, 2020 has given us this beautiful glimpse into things that aren't working. Yeah. I think educators are getting a glimpse into kids' homes, and now they are confronted with what's really going on in the home that maybe they weren't aware of before, of, oh, okay, this is what they're dealing with, and I had no idea. And I think, again, like you said, the system, you need some people in there that are willing to disrupt it and willing to try something different, and try, adding movement. I know I attended a beautiful workshop on utilizing dance to teach math and to teach shapes, and I thought it was the most amazing. It was so fun. We got to participate, but seeing that use of movement and dance to teach something, it's like we have forgotten that these things can all be in the same space, and they can all work together, and they can all nurture and support the individual. But it will take, like you said, I think in a lot of systems of 2020, we're seeing like, ooh, that one doesn't work, and education may be one as well.
Yeah. Fazana, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's also very, very clear, because we are programming exactly to go into the classroom and only teach syllabus, right?
Yeah.
Now, when some of them, we have been trying to do something different, that was mocked at by the management and the other teachers, right? So we were on an experimental basis, right? Because we have to try to understand that somewhere along being an educator, we are also felicitors. We have to provide them with lot of good feelings. We were talking on the topic of teachers' good health. I think the good health will start if she keeps her mind relaxed, her soul intact. If she is calm, she is very much at ease and comfort zone with children. I think much of the work of her tension and stress will go down. Because we are pushing her along the edges only for marks oriented. Our exams are only marks oriented. Even a teacher is judged according to the marks which her class is getting in the examination. I think if you take a child from 80 to 90, it's not that difficult. But if a teacher works hard, and if the child comes into a classroom with a smile on the face, and even if it's increasing by 2%, I think the teacher has done a very commendable job. Now, how to keep yourself mental ease is also a small sort of practicing of yoga for every teacher. Teacher has to know the tricks and the craft to keep herself not only agile but happy from within. If she teaches with that happy heart and try to do whatever you have said, my dear friends, are really true. We have been practicing that
Mm.
to take a break, to sing with them, to admire them, even clapping in the classroom, clapping with a tune, with a sudden rhythm
Yeah.
can refresh your mind. But
Yeah.
many
That's
a time,
fantastic.
many
Yeah.
a time it is considered as wastage of time by the teacher. Now this, our higher authorities and the new national policy has to understand this, that we are not teaching any robots, and neither we want to create any robots.
Yeah.
Our desire and wish is the child in his innocence, he should not lose his innocence,
Yeah.
even the
Yeah.
age of 18.
Yeah.
He should understand that looking backward, he should always understand that school days were the best days of his life,
Mm. Mm.
because he had a teacher, as you see, and my other very esteemed guest says, that the mental health, the physical health, not only having food on time, exercising, but do you appreciate a teacher for her good performance today in the classroom? When there were smiles and laughter in the classroom, did anybody appreciate it? That particular teacher who brought a big smile on the face of the child today?
Mm.
Did you make the teacher happy? Because you don't make the teacher happy. So she may try this experiment for 1 week, 2 weeks. After that, she may again join the same group where she
Mm.
has to go program it. She'll go into the classroom, complete her syllabus, and come back.
Mm. Mm.
The entire system needs a new revival policy. It
Yes.
needs
Yes. Yes.
a new approach to education,
Yes.
a new approach to even teachers.
Mhm.
Respect a teacher, respect her mental health. If you don't, it's like a wife. She, a mother who cooks delicious meal, washes your clothes, take care of the family. But at the end of the day, it is a thankless job,
Mm.
because she is taken for a ride. She is taken for granted that
Mhm.
mom, this is what you're supposed to do. So you're not done doing anything special. So you have to remember this start from your own house.
Mm. That's true.
If the mother of the house is respected, then the teacher in the school will be definitely be respected.
Mm. That's true. You know.
Give
That's
a free hand to
interesting.
her.
Food for
Give
thought. That
a
is
free
so very
hand.
true.
And always you coordinate with other subjects. You can coordinate, like for example, history. Why do not you coordinate with any drama teacher or music teacher? And why cannot you do that skit in the classroom? So
Mm.
you're coordinating more than one or two teachers. So the child will know that my teachers are as a team.
Mm.
My education is not from one teacher.
Mm.
I'm getting this blessing from many sources.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the school will stand in solidarity. Because if I ask one of my drama teacher, please help me to prepare this skit on particular character of history, right? And pick up a child who is not so active in the classroom. The participation of every child is a responsibility of the teacher. The
Mm.
teacher does her role perfectly, but she is not appreciated for that.
Mm.
Because unfortunately, at the end of the day, how many students pass in your classroom? How many got higher percentage? It's only the parameter in which her talent and skill is judged.
Mm. It is
So
true.
she will not take that risk. She'll never take. I know many people. They said, "No, miss, we'll not take this risk. You better take it the risk, but we'll not take. But we have to take this risk." Somebody has to break
The
this vicious
cycle.
cycle.
Yep. I am. I do. I dance in my classroom. I play music. We do all sorts.
Yes,
We run around the school and then we come back. People are looking at, where's this teacher come from? She's mad. That's fine. You know, I'm just, it's interesting though because I do all of this in my, because I go to different schools. And that is something I do with all schools. And there's sometimes
yes.
I'm coming home, I'm saying, you know, I wonder if they're going to say they don't want me back the next day, right? Because,
Yes. Why? Why is very simple. It's simple. We are giving them the spice of life.
yeah,
We are giving them the spice of life. This
yeah.
also is the most necessary and core part of education.
Mm,
that a child should retain all his emotion.
Mm.
His emotion should be flourish under your care.
Mm.
It should not be pressed down. It should not be pressed down. It should not be commented. It should not be said, okay, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Because a child may be good in craft, he may be good in drawing, he may be good in sports. There are many things which a teacher has to do. I always see in my classroom, I'm like a joker in the circus, doing all the thing, like a mother, when she feeds her child, she plays with the child, she babbles along with the child, isn't it?
Mm.
When it's in the learning stage, even the mother babbles, babbling.
Mm.
That the people laugh who do not know. Only those people will laugh who are not mothers.
Mm.
But if one mother looks at another mother, she'll understand that she is trying to feed the child, and therefore she is babbling in its language.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
appreciation that the teacher is going beyond her limitations, beyond her capacity, working hard, 5 to 5.5 hours, 6 hours she is with the child. You can't manage your 2 children in the house. We are managing 500, 600 kids in the school.
Yeah.
And when we go to the lower language, we had to come to that level. When come to a higher level, we had to immediately switch. It's like bulb, switch on, switch off.
Mm.
So how much pressure it is on our brain, on our heart. But teachers are destined. They have special blessing by God. They all have perfect and strong heart.
Mm.
And they could withstand many calamities and many differences of opinion. But that does not expose them to hatred. People do not look upon to teachers with respect and understanding that she is not just a computer giving us knowledge. She is not that Google where you can get only knowledge.
Exactly.
She's an institute of experience. She's
Yeah.
an institute of experience. And she's teaching us as she is teaching her own children at back home.
Mm.
This has to be respected by every school, by educational inspectors, and those who are compacting the curriculum
Yeah, but you see,
for the children.
I hear that, Fazana, but one of the things for me as well, your action sends out to other people how you expect them to treat you. And if educators are not taking time off for self-care, how can they expect other people to respect them or to give them that honor? We need to put it out there and say, okay, I am honoring myself. And I am putting, but it's interesting because I heard Carrie said in terms of boundaries, we need to put out the boundaries and say, hold on, this is my time here. Do not knock on that door because I'm taking my 10 minutes. We need to set the boundaries as educators, because if we set no boundaries, it means that principals, head of department, all these people, take us for granted and disrespect us, and parents in turn disrespect us, and the students we are teaching in turn disrespect us, because we are not saying that we are worthy.
Exactly, I do agree with you. My dear Debbie, I 100% agree with you, because as teacher we go more than the call of the duty, but somewhere we have to respect that. We have to respect to honor ourselves, because we have to honor our time.
Exactly.
That 10 minutes, maybe 2 minutes, you can listen to the music on your phone. Maybe you can just enjoy your sandwich or a cup of coffee. But teach a child that if you are not happy from within, you can't share happiness with others.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
You have to set an example. And of course, we are the trendsetters. We are doing that. But it is a difficult task, because conventionally and traditionally, a teacher is supposed to even sacrifice that 10 minutes. Many times I have sacrificed my research time to solve the doubts of the children, to talk with the parents, because the parents do not come on time. But somewhere I understood what is called honoring oneself. You need to tell that this is the time I want to be with myself.
Exactly.
This is the time I want to introspect. This is the time I want to smile with myself. And this is the time I want to appreciate, pat my own back and say, good work done. And come back and bounce back to class with the same vigor.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a job. It's a very Herculean task.
Yeah.
It's a very Herculean task. But I'm sure with small support from the management, from our senior teachers, and from our junior teachers and colleagues, can definitely help us to solve much of our mental stress.
Yeah.
And when you're calm and relaxed, you're happy.
Yeah. Yeah, but you see, I feel that some of the stress, we actually put it in ourselves because we don't know how to say no. And we don't know how to set boundaries. Carrie, what's your thought on this?
Yeah, I agree. And I think, I mean, we're talking to educators, but I feel like this is a very universal problem, or, you know, situation, cultural, maybe belief, I don't know. But it is very common, I think, in a lot of professions to have that feeling of, you know, I have to do more. I have to put my own needs aside. And we've been very much taught that when we put ourselves first, it is selfish. And we changing that idea of it's not selfish to take care of yourself, because when you take care of yourself, you have then a greater capacity to take care of the world around you. That is like, I mean, that's an entire cultural shift, right? Like that's each of us doing our part to shift that belief, to say this is no longer what we are believing. I've had this conversation with other, my realm is nursing, but other nurses, that when we let go of those boundaries, like you guys said, with, you know, not eating the sandwich, not taking the 10 minutes, you know, parents are late, so your time is then stolen in a sense. It's the same idea that then, you know, nurses face is the same thing. Like, we have to create the boundary. If we don't create the boundary, if we don't take the initiative to say, this is my expectation and this is my standard, then the world, management, admin, whatever, is not going to change, because you keep sort of downsizing your standard. You say, this is my standard, and then your actions aren't fitting what you have said your standard is. And so this is a really small, tiny example of that. But one of the things, and this is actually as I'm doing my own work, right, my own inner work, that I have, I had an experience where, as a nurse, it is very common, and I'm sure teachers too, to hold you when you have to go to the bathroom, because we drink lots of water, because we talk all day.
Yes.
To hold your urine until it's painful, right? We do that. And, you know, nurses, we call it the nurse's bladder, and it's a joke. But at the core of that joke is the reality that I am willing to be uncomfortable because I don't want to put my needs ahead of anybody else's. And in the meantime, I'm distracted because I have the restroom. I'm uncomfortable. I can't focus. So now actually, I'm not actually taking care of you as well as I should, had I taken the 45 seconds it would take to run to the restroom, go to the bathroom, wash my hands, and come back and be focused, ready, be engaged, and be present. And that's a small little example, but it adds up. And that's what I'm learning. Those small things add up. We've decided to put ourselves on the back burner and say, oh, it's just going to the bathroom, it's not that big of a deal. No, if your standard is, I get to eat lunch by myself and have a few minutes, I get to go to the restroom when I need to, I get to take my little, I know you guys like get little breaks or prep periods. I'm going to take my prep period and utilize it to prep, and I will not take parent calls or parent interactions at that time. If those are your standards, and I encourage you to write them down, if those are your standards, every single time you do the opposite, you're out of alignment and you're not honoring yourself. And so every interaction you have that's outside of your standard now becomes less than it could have ever been had you interacted within your standard, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
it
had
does.
you taken the time to eat your lunch and spend that 5 minutes, when you go into the next lesson, into the next class, you're now serving them at a much higher level than if you had decided to release that standard or downgrade your standard and maybe work on paperwork or talk to an upset parent. Then you go into that lesson and you're maybe resentful and you're not present and you didn't do any of the things that you said that you would. So every time we're out of alignment with that standard, everything else that comes after that is affected. And we have to understand, exactly like you said, Debbie, that this is us taking the ownership of our lives to say, these are my standards, these are my boundaries. And yes, it may affect other people, but what also happens, again, like I said, you're setting an example. So when a parent shows up late and they've missed that meeting and you tell them, I'm so sorry, but this is my prep time and I don't have the time to speak with you. Here are 2 other times that I am able to talk to you. What works for you? When you stand in that power, you show the parent, ooh, this is okay. There's boundaries here. There's expectations here. You're teaching them a lesson, so there is really some beautiful work in creating boundaries and standards and then sticking to them for yourself.
Yeah. I so agree with that. When you talk, I didn't even realize nurses had the same problem with the bladder. We have something called teacher's bladder, and they keep on saying that educators need to have a strong bladder. On Friday, one of my colleagues, she's coming. She said, Debbie, she had 2 lessons back to back, and she said, Debbie, I cannot speak to you. I need to go to this. I need to have a wee. And I'm saying to her, it's amazing. I said, look. I said, that's the problem, because when you're teaching young children, especially, you cannot go to the toilet when you want to.
Right.
That's the thing about, and people do not understand this. They take this for granted, but as educators, going to the bathroom is not taken for granted. Sometimes it's a luxury. If you teach in classes, one after the other, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I need to go to the toilet. I have these young children, I cannot go. You need to have strong bladder. People don't understand. Yeah. Sometimes going to the toilet is a luxury for us. And teaching online is like, I did something and I said to educators, I said, what's one of the most beautiful thing of teaching online? I said, yes, I know you don't like it. One of them said, you could go to the bathroom when you want to.
Yeah. And it's again, but it's knowing the resources, right? Because nurses do the same thing. Like, we can't go, I have to deliver this med, or I have to do whatever it is, X, Y, and Z. But it's knowing your resources. Like, your teacher came to you and said, can you help me? I need to use the restroom. That is a beautiful moment of her honoring her need and saying, what's my resource? Oh, that teacher is my resource. And then you granting her that time is also beautiful, in the sense that you're saying, I support you. I've got you. We're in this together. Yeah. Again, it's these small things that are really actually big. It's really big. It's actually a big deal. Yeah.
It's big deal for us because we're in it. For someone outside, they're thinking, what are you talking about? Really? Right. Yes. You take going to the toilet because you work in an office. You take going to the toilet for granted. We can, as nurses and teachers, we cannot do that. We don't have that luxury. We have to check the moment. And then sometimes you teach it in a place where there is only your class. There's no class there. So it's just you and your class. And I'm thinking, Lord, I need to go to the toilet, but I cannot go to the toilet because if I go, my class is going to be ruined because there'll be a war, right? And then you're thinking, come on, bell. And you teach it, but you're not thinking, come on the bell.
Right. And you're not as focused, just like you said, you're focused on the bell. So you're not actually focused on the students. And so we think it's this sort of like, we get into this martyr mode of like, oh, I held my bladder for 6 hours. But in reality, what that did was took away from your students.
Yeah.
Right? Because you were focused on your student. You were focused on going to the restroom. And so it's that reality too, and acknowledging that's that's sort of a identity that we've taken on that we need to get rid of.
Yeah, that is so very true. Yes, Fazana.
Yeah, and Debbie, somewhere we are so over emotional people, like when nurse friend says that we have to honor everything, all said and done. But even for going for 43, 45 seconds of attending to your bladder, even that thing we feel very, very guilty that we are away from the classroom.
Yeah.
Because even for that we are judged.
Right.
Even for that we are judged. We are not being given that sympathetic outlook that we are as human beings as you and me. We have to understand that. Even that you are being counted that when you're not in the classroom, the children's make a havoc, is you are responsible.
Yeah.
And that is very painful, because when the teacher comes back, she feels very guilty because she gets a dressing down by the principal that
Yeah.
your class was making noise.
Yeah.
So she, many a time I hold my bladder because I didn't want it, because I teach 10 standard. I didn't want it to leave the classroom. But later on, when I became sick. Sometimes I used to become nervous, that to be
Yeah.
sweating. Because
Yeah.
that time it's very difficult to explain somebody, because if the whispering goes on in the corridor that this teacher was not in the classroom, she went to the washroom, as you said, it's luxury, and the class was making noise.
Yeah.
So you have
Oh, okay, thank you for that. Let's just, let's have a few tips, as we could be here for the next 10 years talking about this topic. Right. Let's just have, in terms of, can I have 3 tips, what we could actually say to educators in terms of taking care of their mental health in order to enable them to take care of the students in front of them.
First, may I, Debbie?
Yeah.
First is breathing exercise. Let them breathe properly. Much of the time, we are not using our lungs to the fullest optimum extent, because our job is to speak, right? So, first, to take care of the breathing exercise. Second thing, hold on to your prayers. That will give you a mental toughness. Third, do not skip your breakfast. Remember that. Always remember one thing, that is the first meal of the day. Make sure you have it properly. Cool and calm approach with small planning can definitely be your weapon to fight against all the odds.
Thank
And
you.
people will take you for granted because people expect more from you, but don't take it as a disadvantage. Make it your advantage. People look up to you with certain pride and expectation.
Yeah.
And when they look to you for expectation and ask more, maybe you will grumble, but always look on the other side of the coin. They are thinking you are a superhuman being.
Yeah.
And enjoy that superhuman being quality.
Yeah.
And yes, with this one line, I will end my session. Debbie, I really want to lift a prayer to all the teachers, to all the educators, to my nurse friend down there, to you. May your tribe increase. May the good Lord stand by you, give you the eternal power and the compassion and the strength to keep moving, because we are not normal human beings. Because we teach a child that you came as a human being, but being human is a greater canvas of life.
Yeah, thank you. So very true. Thanks, so very true. Carrie?
Yeah, so I loved all of her tips, and I definitely agree with breakfast. I think that even if it's something small, giving yourself a little bit of something is important. My 3 tips are, first of all, I always start people with making sure that you're logging how you're feeling, whether that's first thing in the morning, you journal, whatever it is for you, really looking at every moment of your day as far as, how is my stress level? How am I feeling in this moment? What is the emotion that I'm experiencing? What would if it's something that maybe you don't want to be feeling, what is it that I would rather feel, and how can I give that to myself? So really looking at building the self-awareness, I think, is key, because we we can't fix something if we don't know there's a problem.
Yeah.
Number two, I do not underestimate how important sleep is. Sleep is so, so important. Making sure that you're getting good quality sleep, making sure that you have a bedtime routine. I talk about the 3 or 4 B's usually with parents of children, and it applies to adults. Creating a routine at like 8:30 at night where it's bedtime. So you're going to have a bath, you're going to brush your teeth, and you're going to go to bed, and doing the same thing over and over again. It helps your brain prepare for sleep. And then eventually you will start to learn that you'll start to get tired at about 8:30 because that's when your bedtime routine starts. And so it's the same with kids, right? And now you just do it as an adult. We're just all parenting ourselves again. So don't underestimate the importance of that. Sleep. And third, movement. It's so important for your mental well-being. And I say that as movement that does not have to be traditional exercise. So moving your body for movement's sake is so important. It elevates mood. It transfers energy. It's so important to do. Yes, if you go to the gym, that's fantastic. I'm never going to tell you not to do that, but making sure that you're also just moving your body for the sake of moving it and honoring it and allowing you to elevate your mood through that.
Yeah, thank you very much. And for me, I keep on saying to educators, you need to set boundaries, because when you don't set boundaries, you are saying that to everybody out there, you could treat me how you want to treat me. We need to set boundaries. By setting boundaries, we say, we are going to take so much, and this is what I'm accepting, right? We need to set boundaries because we are sending the message out saying, this is how I want you to treat me. Another thing is educators, it's really interesting, Kerry. Self-care doesn't have to be a whole hour. It could just be a 5 minutes where you actually just sit quietly and meditate 2 to 3 minutes. Just having time with you. That's all you need to do. Remember, you need to have time with you for you to have time with other people. And if you don't have time for yourself, there's no way you'll be able to be centered and teach your students. Another thing is, you need to start loving upon yourself. The same way when you're actually having a relationship, you want this man or this woman to stay, you all lovey-dovey with them, etc. What's about being lovey-dovey with you? You are the most important person in all of it. So take care of yourself and fall in love with you. Actually, I've got a course that I'm writing, finishing off, Falling in Love with Me. That's what my course is called, Falling in Love with Me. We need to start doing that, falling in love with me. And thank you very much to my 2 members. I really appreciate today. Thank you very much, Facebook, and educators and nurses now, because I realize the nurses are in the same position as us. You guys need to love yourself, and you are doing a fantastic job. It doesn't matter what the public is saying. You are doing a fantastic job, and give yourself some slack. Stop beating up on yourself. It's not worth it. Because when you start beating up on yourself, guess what? Everybody else beating up on you too. So you need to stop beating up on yourself, and then people are going to see that you are not beating up on yourself. They're going to start honoring you. Take care, everybody. Thank you very much, my Facebook panel. Take care. Good evening, good night, good morning, where you are. And I do appreciate you guys. Thank you very much to my panel. Thank you guys for coming on, and I really do